Keeper of the Lost Cities, Everblaze, Chapter 14. Dude, what is up with them not rhyming? Keith asked, holding up the note like he expected to find a secret message scratched into the paper. Sophie had done the same thing, and searched the entire bottle for clues, and checked the caves to make sure Sandor hadn't missed anything. But of course, the only thing the Black Swan had given her was the incredibly unhelpful message, which meant her best option in the what do I do now category involved getting to Foxfire early the next day and ambushing Keith on his way to morning orientation, though she was already regretting that decision, especially when Keith tossed the note back at her and said, "Okay, I figured out our reply. Write this down, Gigantor. You may not want to meet, but we definitely do. Name a time and a place, or we'll pelt you with sparkly poo." Sophie was too angry to laugh. After all the times she'd risked her life to help the Black Swan, all the times she'd blindly followed their vague instructions, when it was finally her turn to go for them to help, to protect Sylvanie, no less, they'd cast her aside with a single, poorly written sentence. "Hey, don't go," Keith said, grabbing her wrist to stop her. Sophie flinched. The other bruise ointment she'd tried had bleached most of the wound's reddish color, but her skin still felt raw and tingly, and throbbed every time she bumped it. "I'm fine," she said under her breath, hoping Keith would drop it, and Sandor hadn't noticed. She wasn't in the mood for another Elwyn visit. Keith narrowed his eyes, but all he said was, "I know the Black Swan are being super jerky, but that means you need to get tougher. Make your next note a demand. Remember, you're Sophie Foster, mysterious girl extraordinaire." He pumped his fist, making most of the prodigies around them turn to stare. "I mean it," he added a bit quieter. "The Black Swan needs you way more than you need them. You're the one holding all the cards." Even if that were true, she had no idea how to play the game. Her one move had been leaving them a note, and they'd tossed it back in her face. "How is refusing to meet me for my protection?" she asked, as they walked along the winding path to the main Foxfire building. "I mean, if they want to keep me safe, shouldn't they find out what I know? Maybe they already know what you know," Keith suggested. "Or maybe they don't trust themselves." "What do you mean?" "Well, the rebels did find their hideout somehow, and we had to fly across the ocean on an alicorn, so I'm pretty sure no one followed us." She stopped walking. "Are you saying you think the Black Swan has a leak?" "Maybe. Or maybe they're worried they do, and that's why they think it's safer not to meet you right now." "That actually makes sense." "Of course it does. I'm a genius. That's why you keep me around." Well, that and my stunning good looks." He rumpled his hair and gave her his most confident smirk, but Sophie was too distracted to reply. What if the Black Swan did have a leak? 10,000 questions swamped into her mind, but the crowd had grown too thick for Sophie to say anything further. They'd reached the 6th tower, 6-colored, U-shaped main building, and everyone was funneling into the 5-story glass pyramid in the center of the courtyard. Orientation was held every morning on the ground floor, and as they made their way inside, Sophie expected Keith to join his fellow level 5 prodigies in their fiery red uniforms, but he followed her over to the cluster of amber brown level 3s instead. "Are you guys leaping to school together now?" Dex said as he joined them. "Foster wishes," Keith jumped in. Before Sophie could say anything, "I was just walking with her because, well, Gigantor misses me." He wrapped his arms around Sandor, and Sandor shoved him away. "I'll be waiting over there," he said, glaring at Keith as he stalked to his usual spot in the corner. "What were you guys really doing?" Dex asked, as soon as Sandor was gone. "And don't tell me nothing. I'm not an idiot." "But we were doing nothing. I just had to ask Keith something about Sylvanie." It was sort of the truth, but Dex clearly did not buy it. "Oh, Iggy looks awesome," she added, changing the subject to something safer. "Really?" Dex's cheeks dimpled as he smiled. "Thanks. I had a super hard time deciding between orange dreads or green spikes." "Dude, can I have the green spiky elixir?" Keith asked. "I've been trying to figure out what to do with Dame Elena next." Sophie shook her head at him. "You're hopeless, you know that?" Not as long as I have you. Fix me, Foster. You're my only hope. Sophie knew he was teasing, but her cheeks still felt hot, and she glanced towards Dex. She could tell he noticed. So, she said, trying to fill the awkward silence, what have you been? Boo! Bianca shouted, appearing out of thin air between them. She giggled as they all jumped back. You guys should have seen your faces. Being a vanisher is going to be awesome. I totally read that very wrong. Boo! She vanished again as Fitz made his way over to their group. Another fiery red uniform among the golden brown. Can you believe she's still at it? There's no way I was this annoying when I manifested. Wanna bet? Dex mumbled. Sophie elbowed him. No, Dex is right, Keith said, smirking at Fitz. Not only did I have him constantly begging to read my mind, but I had to keep hearing, I'm the youngest telepath to ever manifest. His impersonation of Fitz's precise accent was pretty dead on. If only we'd known Foster had beaten you by 8 years. We could have shut you up much sooner, Keith added, earning himself a huge grin from Dex. And wait, isn't Bianca younger than you were? Only by a few weeks, Fitz corrected. Plus, telepathy's a rarer ability. Yeah, well, vanishing's cooler, Bianca told him, disappearing again. Whoa, Jency whispered, his eyes as round as his head as him and Marilla joined them. Bianca manifested? His mouth fell open as Bianca reappeared. That's the coolest thing ever. Did you manifest this weekend? And did it hurt? My brother said that it hurt. He said he felt kind of achy all day before he manifested, and then his foot sank into the floor, and he realized he was a phaser, and was like, oh, that's why. Was it like that for you? Once Jency started his rapid-fire questioning, there was no stopping him, though Sophie was surprised at how quiet Marilla was being. Usually Marilla was the biggest gossip in the group, dominating their conversation with a surprisingly loud voice. One so tiny. You okay? Sophie asked, noticing Marilla's uniform was more wrinkled than usual. Her blonde hair also wasn't twisted into any braids. Oh, yeah, I'm just tired. I overslept and an intricate peal of chimes cut her off as Dame Elena's projection appeared across the far wall of the pyramid. Good morning, prodigies, she said, fluffing her caramel-colored hair and flashing a gleaming smile. Welcome to the next week at Foxfire. Sophie only half listened as Dame Elena rattled off a lecture about Foxfire being a noble school and how they all needed to act like they were aware of the privilege they'd been given by attending. But she was forced to pay attention when Dame Elena declared that a special announcement was to be made. As some of you already know, we've had our first prodigies manifest abilities this year. So, would everyone please join me in congratulating our new vanisher, Bianca Vacker, and our new technopath, Dex Disney. Spotlights flashed on both Dex and Bianca, and the room erupted into cheers. As soon as the light dimmed, Dex spun to face Keith. Did you tell Dame Elena about me? Keith laughed. Dude, I would never talk to Dame Elena if I don't have to. Well, maybe you had to, Dex pressed. To get out of detention or something? Nope, I have detention for the rest of the month. You can check. Then was it you? Dex asked, turning to Sophie. Do you really think I would do that? She could hear the hurt in her voice, but she couldn't believe Dex would ask. Dex's eyes dropped to his feet. I don't know, who else would it be? I have no idea, Sophie admitted, but I also don't think this is a bad thing. I mean, look around you. Exactly, Keith jumped in, pointing to one of the whispering prodigies. Everybody's talking about how cool you are. No, they're saying Bianca's cool. For me, they're probably saying, of course Dex got the lame ability. Nobody thinks it's lame, Sophie promised. How would you know? Are you reading their minds? I could, though she wasn't allowed to. According to the rules of telepathy, she wasn't supposed to read anyone's mind unless they gave her permission first. Dex turned back to Keith. And you're sure you didn't tell anyone? No offense, but if I'm going to brag about someone, I'll brag about me. Or Foster, but usually me. Dex didn't look convinced, but he didn't say anything else as he turned to walk away. Sophie waited until he disappeared into the crowd before she asked Keith. It wasn't you, right? He clutched his heart, pretending to be wounded. I wonder who it was then. No one besides us. Sophie's voice trailed off as she thought of someone else who knew. Someone who was always watching. Someone who might have a leak. But would the Black Swan, or their leak, tell anybody about Dex's secret ability? Hey, Keith said, waving his hands in front of her eyes. Don't let Dex get to you. He'll be over this by the end of the day. My dog is snoring. She doubted that. Dex could hold a major grudge, but she nodded as she turned to follow the other prodigies out of the pyramid. Keith stayed beside her as Sandor led them through the main building. The crystal balls of each wing matched the color of the corresponding grade level's uniform, and when they reached the amber-brown level 3 wing, Sophie turned to head toward her locker. Wait, Keith said, jumping in front of her. You should ditch with me. I mean, do you really want to suffer through elven history? Miss Foster will be going to her session, Sandor told him before Sophie could reply. Oh, come on. You can ditch with us too. Sandor cracked his knuckles ominously. You know, you don't want to listen to 2 hours of that troll emancipation act, Keith told him. It's on the Elven Ogre Treaty, actually, Sophie corrected. Which will probably be useful considering everything happening. Keith's brows shot up, and she realized she hadn't told him about the tracker being made by the ogres yet. But she didn't have time to get into that right now. Fine, Keith said, as she opened her locker and grabbed her history books. Go be a model prodigy, but I'm coming over after school, and you're telling me whatever you're hiding. And then we'll come up with our epic, we are the cool, powerful ones, not you, reply to the Black Swan, and whip those dudes into shape. Deal? Sophie nodded so he'd be quiet, but she definitely wasn't agreeing. She couldn't send the Black Swan any notes, and she realized with a start that she couldn't trust their notes anymore either. Until she knew who their leak was, she was officially on her own.